the tournament's here. I don't work during the tournament. The tournament's too great for me to work. The only reason I'm here today is because of Nadu. If it wasn't for Jeff, I would have been off today too because it's tournament time.
Wow.
We bring him in to the
How
boardwalk.
about
I don't work during the tournament. Man, this is the first year I haven't been away for the tournament in 15. Well, last year I wasn't either. There was no tournament.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You told me you go like to somewhere and watch. Okay, yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, that makes sense. Well, I'm glad I could be of service. I'm glad you're here because of it.
Well, you were of service for a lot of people if they were listening to us on Thursday, especially as much as we touted I don't like to use that word, but we touted Loyola Chicago a lot, and here they are. I actually have them in the final game, losing to Gonzaga, but my brackets are alive and well because of all the research that we did on how good that team was. So it's not a surprise to me that they're still standing.
Well, Mike, really? You have Loyola in the final game?
Final game.
Wow, good for you.
I had them beating
Yeah.
West Virginia.
I would absolutely love them to get there. I feel really vindicated too because on every show I went on, even whenever I was on with you, it was always Loyola, and I think the country's starting to see that wasn't just a flash in the pan in 2018, Mike. It was, this is a really good program, and they're well coached, and they're really good.
Well, yeah, and I remember them from 3 years ago, so it's not that big of a surprise that they're still here. They have a couple guys, key guys, that were a part of that team as freshmen, and now they're back.
Yep.
So, and the coach is phenomenal. I mean, he's outstanding. I mean, if he wants to leave there, he can go.
No, and he's built culture there. And, college basketball is so integral to culture, man. The NBA or the NFL, coach isn't as important. But, in college, the right coach will change the trajectory of your program. So you can go, Mike, and be Minnesota, where you hire Richard Pitino and you are bad for years, or you hire, a Porter Rose or a Jay Wright or somebody like that. Kelvin Sampson, prime example at Houston. It's all about culture, and culture breeds winning and success. Look at Jay Wright. Jay Wright's a prime example. He does not get the best players every year, but culture wins, and he can make anyone good.
Well,
So
and I think what we're finding out, Jeff, in this one-and-done world is that if you have the 4-year players, they win. You can win at the mid-major because you have guys who are older, stronger, you have culture. All those things are why you see these aren't upsets. These are men beating kids.
No, exactly. And I've always said, I'll always go with experience over, the one-and-doners. Because let me ask you, I mean, in this tournament, is Duke in this tournament? Is Kentucky in this tournament? Is, one-and-done is almost over. You have it a little bit, but the teams that succeed long-term in this day and age still are the long-term team programs.
All right, let's look at some of these numbers as we get to the weekend here. So I want everybody listening to remember some of these things because these games are going to be on Saturday. So these are some early lines here. Loyola Chicago, it's -6.5. Oregon State, who's kind of, it's a 12 versus an 8 here. So now you got Loyola Chicago in a spot where they're not an underdog anymore. They're not the surprise. They're actually a heavy favorite.
Yeah, it's definitely a different wavelength for them. But when you look, I mean, they were a slight favorite against Georgia Tech. I ultimately will tell you, Mike, the saving grace for Loyola was Moses Wright not playing against Georgia Tech. Moses Wright was their best player. Losing a player of his caliber, if he was in there, they'd probably win the game. And they got lucky there. But in this level, as far as Oregon State, look, Oregon State's a solid team. They played some really good matchups here to get into the Sweet 16. When you play Oregon State, Mike, if you can't shoot the ball, you ain't going to win because they're going to zone you and they're going to dare you to shoot. Tennessee couldn't do it. Neither could Oklahoma State. Both teams were very putrid from the field. Loyola, you can get into those types of games, but they're so superior defensively that it doesn't matter. I think Krutwig's a problem either way. And, Loyola has played really well offensively. They were terrific in that Illinois game, just were efficient. The possessions are short and drawn out, but they're efficient. They're 4 for 10 from 3 and 54% from 2. It's a perfect game. It's not 90 points a game, but it's efficient. You take time off the clock. If you can take time off the clock and score, Mike, you're going to win a lot of games. So, I don't think it's a particularly good matchup for Oregon State. I think this is where they bow out.
By the way, it's very low. 125 is the over-under in that game. I mean, that's extremely low.
Loyola is going to dictate tempo, and Oregon State, I don't think is going to be in a hurry either. And Loyola, I mean, Mike, you have to admit when you watch Loyola play, it's almost intoxicating to watch them defend. I mean, they are
Very
just
good.
high level, and both teams are in the 300s in pace, so it's going to be a low scoring game.
All right, Villanova is the 5 and the 1. They are a 6.5-point dog, so that number is the same as Loyola, Oregon State. Villanova is plus 6.5. Baylor 140.5.
Yeah, I think this is where, Villanova, but again, we've talked about this where you think Villanova is going to upend and they win. But you remember they played, Winthrop and North Texas. Okay. This is a huge step up. The guards are going to, I think, eat them alive. Archie Dockin is a solid player, but he's not his brother at this point. And Baylor can guard Robinson Earl in the wing. Robinson Earl is kind of a mobile big, and he can move around, and he's kind of a guy that can go all over the court. I just don't think Villanova has enough horses to run with Baylor. It's a shame they don't have Gillespie because this would be a different game if they did. But, I'm leaning on Baylor. And I think if you look at the early money coming in, it's on Baylor as well.
All right, Oral Roberts has been a surprise. I mean, where Loyola might not be a surprise, Oral Roberts is. It's a 15. Arkansas, though, has been highly impressive. They are an 11-point favorite, 159. So a lot of points in this one.
Yeah, I'll admit I've already played Oral Roberts. I don't understand this line. I mean, I guess I'm just maybe this is 85-70, but I mean, at what point, Mike, do we say like Oral Roberts is maybe pretty good? I mean, they beat Ohio State as 16-point dogs. They beat Florida as 9.5-point dogs. Keep in mind during the regular season, they were close against a lot of good basketball teams early in the season with Missouri and other groups. So, like, at what point do we just say maybe they're pretty good? I mean, they do things to say in games. They make threes. They make free throws. They don't turn it over. And they have a star. Arkansas is not a great defensive team. They go through lapses where they can't defend. And I think they're good, not great. This is too many points. I'd have put this at 7.5. 11's too high.
All right, 7.5. That's a big jump there. All right, and then Syracuse, who knocked off West Virginia. I wasn't all that surprised. Happens to me every year. Houston, and again, that number 6.5 is where it opened. It's 6 right now. Houston's lucky to still be alive.
Yeah, they are lucky to be alive, and I think it's a big wake-up call for them. That was a gutsy win. They ended up winning by, what was it, 3 or 4? It was gutsy. They shouldn't have won, you're right, but they did what Texas couldn't do and win. Mike, this is another thing about coaching. If Syracuse, the reason why Syracuse is in this tournament every year and does well, you know why? Because they have Jim Boeheim. And is Jim Boeheim the nicest guy in the world? No. He's kind of a rude old guy at this point, but he's a good coach. And if you can peg them, I'd like to hear it. They're also a team that's got no respect. Houston's good, but Syracuse has got athletes. They got Buddy Boeheim, who can't be stopped right now. I wonder if Syracuse, they're kind of in that momentum level where you kind of wish they would play today or tomorrow.
Yep.
I wonder how they'll be on Saturday. I think Houston will win, but it comes across close to me, 68, 63 or something like that.
All right, that's your Saturday card. And, of course, you can listen to all the games here on 97.3 ESPN. On the Sunday, it's Creighton and Gonzaga. And, of course, the Zags, a big favorite, 13.5. They really haven't been pushed much.
No, they haven't. And, I don't think they're really going to. I guess when you look at Creighton, kind of an interesting team. They might hang around for 5 or 10 minutes, but Gonzaga will ultimately find a way to pull away and win. They're not as anemic, Creighton, as Oklahoma, but I thought Oklahoma for large parts of that game were in it. I mean, they were right there. I mean, it wasn't a blowout, and it only became a blowout because of some flagrant fouls late. But Gonzaga's not going to get tested until they play USC or Oregon, in my opinion, Mike.
Michigan, the number 1 seed. Florida State, it's +3. Michigan still, a slight favorite in this one, but this one might be one of the more intriguing games of the day.
Yeah, I'm going to wait on this number. If it goes down to 2.5, I'll probably play Michigan at that point. I've been kind of in ways trying to fade Florida State just because I think ultimately there are no point guards going to hurt them at some point. But, Mike, Michigan's interesting because just when you kind of give up on them, they kind of put out this game and you're like, wow, somebody step up that shouldn't have stepped up, and they find a way to win by 7 or 8 against a team like LSU they should have lost against. So I don't really want to go against the culture that Michigan has right now either. I still think they're pretty good without Livers, and Shawnee Brown has played honorably without him. So I think Florida State's kind of gimmicky. I think this is where they go down, but I'll wait for a better number.
All right, the Pack is dancing because they got 3 teams left. One of them is UCLA. They're a 6-point dog against Alabama. I think Alabama has been one of the more impressive teams in this tournament so far.
Yeah, when I was at actually a friend of mine went and grabbed it for me. I got Alabama at 16-1. I wanted to add that to the arsenal because I agree. I think Alabama is really legitimate. They haven't lost in a long time. This year they defend, which is way different than normal. They're usually an up-tempo team who scores a lot but struggles to defend. They've believed in defense this year, and Nate Oates has really kind of turned them into a power. From a guard standpoint, they can really come at you hard. I think they scored 16 points in the first 3.5 minutes last night in the second half against Maryland. They could just jump on you quick. Yeah, I wouldn't want to step in front of them. And I think UCLA, this is kind of where the road ends for them. It's been a good year for Mick Cronin, though. This is a team that really had no business in this tournament, and they're in the Sweet 16. So good on them.
Then 2 Pac teams will face each other. It's the late game Sunday night, Oregon, USC, 2.5. It's a 7 and a 6.
Yeah, this is probably the toughest game of the entire weekend. I think, with USC, they kind of owned Oregon earlier in the season, beat them by 14. The game wasn't even that close. It was 20 for most of the game. It was never a game, really. But Oregon's a lot different team than they were then. They're fully healthy now. Will Richardson and Duarte are playing at a really high level. And I feel like they're tough and physical and have the bodies to maybe bang with the Mobley kids. The concerning thing for Oregon is, Mike, in that first game when these two teams played, USC didn't have one of the Mobley twins and still won by a wide margin. So, with Dana Altman, I'm sure he'll make some adjustments, and you got a whole week to prepare. Oregon just seems like a team right now that I don't want to get in front of. That Iowa game was impressive. I'm going to kind of hope to wait on this one and get a little bit better, maybe 3 or 3.5, and try to play it there. But I think this is the toughest game of all of them.
All right, 4 on Saturday, of course. You can hear them all here. 4 on Sunday. Hear them on 97.3 ESPN. Of the 8 games this weekend, your favorite is?
Probably Oral Roberts, Arkansas will be a good one, I think.
That's if you could pick one. You only got to watch one game. You had to do something else. You had errands, and only one. That's the game you're picking.
Well, I mean, obviously, I think Loyola would be the game that it means the most. Is it going to be the best game? I don't think. I think the truest best game will be Arkansas Oral Roberts. I think they're vastly underrated, Oral Roberts. And I think the game is going to be exciting. It's going to be up and down, a lot of offense. I think Oral Roberts is significantly undervalued. Like
very good
really
guard
good.
play.
What's that?
Very good guard play.
Oh, very good. Asmus is best scorer in the country. So
yeah,
they're Paul Mill's a great coach. Good for them.
All right, there you go. That is our look at the Sweet 16. Jeff Nadu at Jeff Nadu on Twitter, and the Pick Watch every morning, 9 o'clock for 1 full hour. They're giving you all the insight on these games as things happen. And, of course, you can listen to the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, the Final Four, and the championship game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Jeff, take care, man.
Bring the kid from Allegheny Avenue home. Kyle Lowry, bring him home. Come on, let's do it.